The high school hunk is secretly a merman. Trigger warnings. Mention of death and drowning. Something's off. You know that weird silence right before a storm hits? Like the air gets heavy and everyone starts acting just a little off? That's kind of what school's been like lately. Except, instead of thunder, it's people going missing. It started with a freshman. Some kid in band who just didn't show up one day. Then a girl from AP Chem. 2 more, both seniors. No one's saying anything official, but we all know. You don't just get 4 students vanishing in a month and call it a coincidence. The hall's feeling different now. People walk faster, talk quieter, teachers keep glancing at the door like they're waiting for something, or someone, to walk in. Even the announcements have that weird edge, like the principal's trying way too hard to sound calm. And me? I've got a bad habit of noticing things I probably shouldn't. Like how there's always wet footprints in the locker room after swim practice, even when no one's there. Or how the ocean's been louder lately, closer somehow. Or how sometimes, when I can't sleep, I sneak out for a walk. I swear I see someone standing in the surf, just standing there, watching. But hey, maybe I'm just being paranoid. Or maybe I've seen one too many horror movies. Maybe I'm just tired. Or maybe something's actually wrong here. 2 days later. I was halfway through overthinking myself into a full-blown spiral about the missing students, connecting dots that didn't want to connect, when the locker room door swung open, and in walked Finn Reynolds. You know those slow-mo shots in movies where the hot guy walks in, dripping water off him, muscles gleaming under dramatic lighting? Yeah, that, but in real life. And somehow worse, because it wasn't a movie, it was me, standing there with damp sneakers and an existential crisis. Finn was everything. Tall, lean, swimmer body perfection, with its sea glass eyes and messy emerald green hair that looked way too good for someone who just climbed out of chlorinated death water. And the thing is, he was cool. Not just popular, effortlessly cool. The kind of guy you could never imagine having awkward phases or dentist appointments. And then, get this, he looked right at me. "Evan, right?" he said, grabbing a towel off the bench like we were already friends. I blinked twice. Yeah. You always sit by the bleachers during practice?" He smiled, all dimples and trouble. "Not that I'm complaining." My brain fully short-circuited. Somewhere in the background, I think a locker slammed, or a light flickered, or the earth spun off its axis, but I couldn't be sure. "You noticed that?" I managed, my voice going embarrassingly high. "Hard not to," he said, grinning like he knew exactly what he was doing to me. "You've got one of those faces." Okay. I don't even know what that means, but it was officially the best thing anyone's ever said to me. And just like that, all my doomsday thoughts, gone. Vanished. Replaced by a full-on, heart-thumping, face-burning, what-is-breathing level of flustered. Was I falling for him? No, that would be crazy. I was absolutely falling for him. The next day. Finn offered to walk me home. Just like that. Casual, chill, no big deal. I played it cool, said something like, "Yeah, sure, whatever," while internally screaming into the void. We cut across the beach, shoes in hand, and sand still warm from the sun. He asked what music I liked. I asked if his hair was dyed or just genetically superior. It was a joke. Sort of. Mostly. He laughed. "It's natural. Weird, right?" It was weird, but I shrugged. Cool weird. As we walked, I noticed something out of the corner of my eye, near the lifeguard tower. Someone had left flowers. A little shrine thing. Another kid who hadn't come home. Finn didn't look at it, just kept talking about how he swam competitively even before high school. I should have asked him about it. The flowers, the kid, all of it. But then he smiled at me like the world was fine, like nothing bad could touch us. And I let it go. 3 days later. Over the next few days, Finn and I started hanging out more often, and it was more than I could dream of. He picked me up after school in his beat-up Jeep that smelled like sunscreen and salt water. Said we were going to get ice cream. No explanation. I said, "You're kind of chaotic." He said, "You love it." He wasn't wrong. We ended up at this little place by the pier. He got pistachio, I got mint chip, and he stole mine anyway. I pretended to be mad. He grinned like he wanted me to call him out. We sat by the seawall, legs swinging over the edge. I told him I was applying to art schools. He said he didn't know what he wanted yet. Said he wasn't really built for long-term plans. That stuck with me. Weird phrasing, like he knew something I didn't. As we talked, I saw a flyer stapled to the pier. Missing. Casey Hunter. Another one. I stared at it too long. Finn nudged me. "Hey, you okay?" "Yeah," I lied. "Just spaced out." He reached over and touched my knee. Light, casual, but warm. "You think too much," he said. Maybe I did. But someone had ripped the corner off that flyer, like someone didn't want it seen. A week later. It was one of those nights when the air felt too thick to stay inside. Finn texted me, "Beach? Midnight. Don't flake." So, obviously, I went. He was already in the water when I got there, bobbing in the dark, lit only by the moon. I kicked off my shoes and waded in, jeans rolled to my knees. "I'm not swimming," I said. "Not happening." He splashed me immediately. "Liar." I laughed. Okay, I was in. We swam, we talked. He floated on his back and told me stories that didn't sound real, about shipwrecks and underwater caves and how sometimes the sea asks for things. I thought he was being poetic. Probably. But then he got quiet, just stared out toward the horizon. "What?" I asked. "Nothing." He smiled at me, soft this time. "Glad you came." We sat on the sand after, wrapped in towels, dripping. His hand brushed mine and stayed there. I should have said something then, about the weird stories, about the missing kids, but all I could think about was how close he was, and how warm he felt. So, I didn't say a word. A week later. It was freezing that morning. Gray sky, wind off the ocean, the kind of chill that gets into your bones. Finn showed up late to school, hair damp like he'd swum there, which, honestly, he might have. He saw me shivering on the steps, laughed, and pulled his hoodie off over his head. "Here," he said, tossing it at me. "You look like a sad leaf." I rolled my eyes, but I put it on anyway. It smelled like him, salt and mint and something that reminded me of nighttime and wind. I didn't give it back all day. Later, in the library, he leaned over while I was doodling sea monsters in my notes and whispered, "You kept it." I shrugged. "It's comfy." He smiled like he knew I was lying. "You can keep it." I didn't say anything, just looked at him. Really looked. The soft curve of his mouth, the freckles on his collarbone, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled at me and only me. And it hit me, right there, between algebra problems and late library passes. I was in love with Finn Reynolds. God help me. 3 days later. We were on his roof. Don't ask me how we got there. Something about best view of the stars, and trust me, the view was fine, but he was the only thing I was looking at. We lay side by side on the shingles, hands not quite touching. "Do you ever think about disappearing?" he asked quietly. I turned my head. "You mean like running away?" Yeah, just leaving everything, starting over. I watched him. His jaw was tight, eyes on the sky like he couldn't look at me. Sometimes, I said, but I think if you have someone with you, it's not really disappearing. It's more like starting something new. He looked at me then. Really looked. And it was one of those moments. The world got still, quiet, like the universe was holding its breath. He leaned in just a little. Not enough to kiss me, just enough that I could feel it. His breath, the heat of him, the want. I leaned in too. We didn't kiss, not yet, but we didn't have to, because I knew. And judging by the look in his eyes, he knew too. 3 days later. It happened at the Cove. I wasn't trying to spy on him or anything, I swear. I just couldn't sleep. My head was full of him, of us, of all the weird things I hadn't let myself think about too hard. So I went for a walk. Ended up near the rocks where Finn liked to swim. He always said it was peaceful there, private. And that's when I saw him. Under the moonlight, just past the edge of the tide, something moved. Something fast and fluid, and not human. I crept closer, heart pounding. The rocks were wet and sharp beneath my toes, and the waves were louder than they should have been. Finn rose from the water, pulling himself onto a flat stone, and I stopped breathing. His legs were gone. In their place was a long, sleek tail, deep green and silver blue, glittering under the moon like it had been dipped in stars. It was beautiful, terrifying, impossible. I must have made a sound because his head whipped around, his eyes locked on mine. Evan? I stepped back. What the hell? Wait. I tried to run. Nope, no, this isn't real. He was faster than he should have been. Suddenly, on land, dripping wet, back to legs somehow, standing in front of me with that wild, panicked look I'd never seen on him before. I was going to tell you, he said quickly. I didn't know how. What even are you? I asked, voice shaking. What is this? He reached for me. I flinched. It's not what you think. I'm still me, Evan. You're not human. I know, but I wanted to be. With you. That stopped me. He was trembling, barefoot on the rocks, eyes wide and wet and real. I love you, he said. Please don't go, please. I didn't mean for you to find out like this. I stared at him, at this boy I thought I knew, and this thing I didn't understand. My heart was thudding. I felt like I might be sick, or cry, or both. I don't know what to believe anymore, I whispered, and I left. I didn't run, but I walked fast enough that I didn't have to hear him calling my name behind me. A few days later. I hadn't talked to Finn in days. He tried. Texts, DMs, waiting around after class. I even saw him outside my house once, just standing there like he didn't know what to do. But I couldn't. Not right away. My brain was too full of his tail, of his eyes when he said he loved me, of the lies. But the silence was worse. I missed him. Stupidly. Painfully. I had too many questions, and maybe it was time I finally got the answers. So I texted, "Can we talk?" He replied in 2 seconds. "Anytime, anywhere." We met at the Cove. Of course we did. Same spot, same rocks. He was already there, sitting on the edge, legs in the water, hair windswept and damp like always. When he saw me, he stood. Hey. Hey. It was quiet, the kind of quiet that has weight. "I'm sorry," he said first, "for everything, for not telling you sooner, for scaring you." I nodded, but I didn't sit. "So, what are you? Like, exactly?" He rubbed the back of his neck like he didn't know quite how to start. I'm a siren, or merman, technically. I don't like the term siren. Sounds too evil. Are you evil? I asked, before I could stop myself. His face dropped just a little. No, I swear I've never hurt anyone. I don't want to. I sat down, finally. Then why are you here? In a high school? He smiled softly, sad. Because I wanted to know what it felt like to be normal, to fall in love, to have a life that wasn't just salt water and survival. My heart did that annoying thing where it clenched. Why didn't you tell me? He looked away, because I knew once I did, everything would change, and I was selfish. I just wanted to be yours for a little while longer before it all got weird. You could have trusted me, I said. I know, he whispered. I'm sorry. We were both quiet for a second, just listening to the waves. Then he looked at me again, eyes glassy but steady. I meant it, when I said I love you. I swallowed. Yeah? He nodded. Yeah. I don't expect you to say it back. I just needed you to know. I looked at him for a long time. The wind was cold. He looked breakable, not dangerous, not monstrous, just Finn. I'm still mad, I said, still freaked out, but I think I sighed. He smiled, small, hopeful. I know. And then I leaned my head on his shoulder, and he let out a breath like he'd been holding it since the day I found out. We didn't kiss, not yet, but I held his hand. And yeah, things weren't perfect, but they were ours. A week later. Things had been really good. Like, we're in a movie, kind of good. Finn had been opening up more, telling me about his people, their traditions, old songs they sang under the moon, stories passed through water instead of paper, stuff about tides and oaths and how the ocean remembers everything. It was beautiful. Kinda spooky sometimes, but I loved hearing it. And him. We were good. We were in love. It felt like a dream I hadn't earned. So yeah, I wasn't exactly thinking about the missing students anymore. Not really. That whole thing felt far away, like something happening in a different version of my life. Until that day. I stayed late in the library after school. Everyone else had cleared out, and the storm outside was making the windows rattle. I was half asleep over some boring English notes when I thought I heard something muffled, like a voice, or a splash? At first I thought it was just my imagination, but then I saw it. Wet footprints, trailing across the floor, fresh, like someone had just come from the water. I froze. My heart did this awful thud-thud-thud thing in my chest, and then I followed them. Down the hall, around the back of the building, out toward the cliffs. I was soaking wet by the time I made it to the shore, rain pouring, wind screaming. The beach was dark, empty, except it wasn't. Because I saw something. Someone. A tail. Long, silver, powerful. And a person. A kid from school, I think. Struggling in their arms. Gasping, screaming, being pulled under. I ran. I sprinted toward the water. Yelling, slipping in the sand, but by the time I hit the edge, there was nothing. No one. Just waves crashing like nothing happened. Gone. Swallowed up. I stood there shaking, drenched, staring at the ocean like it might spit them back out. It didn't. And all I could think was, Finn has a tail, and he's been here, and he knows who's been disappearing. I didn't want to believe it. Couldn't. But it felt like the dream was breaking, and all that was left underneath was something cold and hungry. 2 days later. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I tried for like 2 whole days. I acted normal, smiled, pretended everything was fine, but it wasn't. It wasn't even close. That image kept replaying in my head. That tail, that kid being dragged under. The way the ocean swallowed them like it had done it 100 times before. And the worst part? The part that made my stomach twist and my hands shake? I knew that tail. I'd seen it up close. I'd touched it. So I asked Finn to meet me, late, at the cove, just like before. When he showed up, he looked so happy to see me. His smile actually hurt to look at. "I've missed you," he said, brushing my hand with his. "Everything okay?" I pulled my hand back. "No." He froze, smile fading. "What's wrong?" "I saw something," I said. My voice was shaking. "The other night, after school, I saw someone being dragged into the ocean. I saw a tail." His face changed, slowly, like something inside him just cracked. "Was it you?" I asked. "Finn, just tell me the truth." He didn't answer right away, just stared at the sand. His whole body looked like it wanted to disappear. Finally, he whispered, "I didn't want you to find out like this." "So it was you?" I felt sick. "You've been taking people." No, Evan, not like that. I didn't have a choice." "Didn't have a choice," I snapped. "That kid, whoever they were, they didn't have a choice either." He flinched. "You don't understand. I can't say no. I tried." I was shaking. I didn't know if it was from rage or heartbreak, maybe both. "Then make me understand, please, because right now I don't even know who I'm looking at." Finn's voice was quiet, barely there. "There are others, like me, worse than me. They live deep below, old ones, bound to the sea. When I left, when I tried to live here, like this, they called it betrayal." I blinked. "So they're punishing you?" "They said I could stay here, if I did one thing. Just one thing." I already knew the answer, but I asked anyway. "Lure people." He nodded. "Bring them to the edge, make them curious, they do the rest. And if I don't," he looked up at me, his eyes wide, desperate. "They take me. Or worse, they take you." My breath caught. "That's why I didn't tell you," he said, "because I knew you'd hate me. And I hated myself, too." There were tears in his eyes, real ones. His hands were clenched so tight I thought they might snap. "I love you," he said, voice cracking. "I never wanted to hurt anyone. I swear to the stars, Evan, I didn't choose this." And I just stood there, totally gutted. Because how do you love someone who's been helping monsters? How do you hate someone who never wanted any of this? I didn't know what to say, so I said nothing, and the silence between us felt louder than the crashing waves behind him. 2 days later. I don't know what scared me more, what Finn had told me about the sirens, or how fast I said, "I'll help you." It was almost midnight. The cove was quiet, the tide pulling in and out like it was breathing. Finn sat beside me, his knees pulled to his chest, hair wet from the sea. He looked like he was barely holding himself together. "They want another," he said quietly. "They said if I don't bring someone soon, they'll come take one themselves. Or they'll take you." My stomach twisted. "Why me?" "Because I love you," he whispered, like it was a crime. "And they know it." We were both quiet for a second. Then I said, "Okay, then we give them what they want." Finn's head snapped toward me. "What?" "We fake it," I said. "You make it look like you got me, drag me into the water, in front of people, I vanish, give them a performance, and while they're satisfied, I'll just be hiding somewhere nearby." He shook his head, frantic. It's not that simple. If they find out, they'll kill you. They'll do worse to me. We'll make it perfect, Finn. I trust you. His eyes shimmered in the moonlight. I don't want to lose you. I leaned in, my forehead against his. Then don't. The next day. We did it exactly like we planned. After school, as the sun was setting, I walked down to the beach alone, right on schedule. A few students were still hanging out, tossing a frisbee, taking selfies, and then Finn appeared from the water. He looked wild, wet hair slicked back, glowing like something out of a dream or a nightmare. He rushed at me, grabbed my arm, and yanked me toward the waves. I screamed. He looked so real, so terrifying, even though I knew it was him. Kids started shouting. One girl screamed, "Someone call the cops!" And then we were under. Just like that. Gone. He pulled me down, deep beneath the surface, and curved us toward the hidden underwater path he'd shown me, a tunnel that led to a sea cave carved into the cliffs. Cold, dark, safe. We surfaced inside, both of us gasping. You okay? He asked, voice shaking. I nodded. They bought it. But he didn't look relieved. His hands were trembling. They're close. I can feel them watching the currents, listening. He leaned against the cave wall and whispered, "Just one more night. Just one." Later that night, I woke up to a sound that wasn't a sound. A hum, low, icy, almost like a melody, but wrong, dissonant and sharp, like someone dragging their nails across glass underwater. And then the cave trembled. Water surged in from every side, and with it, them. Sirens. Not like Finn, not beautiful or gentle. These were pale, slick things, all sharp smiles and glowing eyes, their hands webbed and clawed. The presence sucked the warmth out of the space. They reached for me. No, stop. I tried to fight, but they were too strong. They dragged me from the cave and into the open sea, the cold slicing into my skin. I couldn't scream, I couldn't breathe. In my head, I could hear them. He lied. You are the price. Sink, little human. Sink. Just as I started to fade, Finn slammed into them like a storm. He screamed something I couldn't understand, his voice echoing through the water like thunder. "Take me instead," he shouted. "Let him go." The sirens stilled. They turned to him slowly, almost like they were smiling with their teeth, but not their eyes. "You chose the surface," one hissed. "You broke the pact. Now the sea will break you." The current swelled, and then Finn started sinking. His body spasmed, scales flashing erratically, his skin dimming like something sacred was being pulled from it. He reached for me. I tried to swim toward him, but the sirens were still there, still circling, waiting. Everything around me blurred. I didn't know which way was up. My lungs were screaming, but all I could think about was him. Finn, being ripped away by the same ocean he was born from. His eyes were wide, terrified, glowing faintly even as the light inside him dimmed. He wasn't swimming anymore. He was sinking like he weighed 1,000 pounds. No, I thought. No, no, no. I kicked down, hard. Fought the water, fought the pressure. My ears were ringing. I could barely see, but I reached, and I grabbed his hand. In that instant, I felt something shift. The water stilled, like it was listening. I pulled him up. I didn't care if my lungs burst. I didn't care if the ocean hated me. I wasn't letting go. "I've got you," I said, voice barely a whisper in the roar around us. "You're not going down alone." And just like that, the water let him go. The current eased, the sirens vanished, retreating like smoke. Finn's body lit up again, like some chain had snapped off his soul. He looked at me, dazed and in awe. "You broke it," he whispered. "You broke the curse." And together, hand in hand, we kicked to the surface, gasping, shaking, alive. A short while later. The sky was just starting to blush pink when we finally broke the surface. I gasped like it was my first breath in years. Salt water stung my throat, my eyes, but I didn't care. Finn was next to me, floating, alive. We made it. The ocean was calm now, too calm, like it had finally let us go. I turned to him, breath still coming in gulps. What just happened? You said something broke? What curse?" Finn blinked, eyes wide and blue and shining like the sea at sunrise. "The curse," he said softly, "was me being bound to them, to the sea. I was born into it. I never had a choice. I was theirs. Everything I did, everywhere I went, it was all under their eye. The minute I tried to live differently, they started pulling harder." He looked down at our hands. We were still holding on like we'd never let go again. "But then, you came after me. You chose me, even when I didn't deserve it. Something changed. It broke their hold. I'm not theirs anymore." I stared at him, heart pounding harder now than it had in the water. "You're free?" He nodded slowly. "I can stay. On land. With you. If you'll still have me." I couldn't help it. I laughed, wet and shaky and kind of ridiculous. And then I kissed him. Right there, in the sea, as the sun started to rise and paint the sky gold. I kissed him like I'd been holding it in for years. Like I didn't want to waste another second. He pulled back just a little, forehead resting against mine. "You risked your life for me." I looked at him, really looked at him. "Any day, every day." He smiled, soft and full of something I didn't have words for. "So, what now?" I just grinned and said, "Start your new life with me." Finn blinked, like I'd said something wild and impossible, and then he kissed me again, harder this time. "Yes," he whispered. "God, yes." We floated there for a while, arms around each other, the water finally gentle, the world finally quiet. The sun climbed higher, and the shore was waiting. But we weren't in a rush. We had time now, and we had each other. Conclusion. 2 years later, life feels unbelievably normal, and I mean that in the best way. I'm in college now, majoring in marine biology. Go figure, right? Classes are tough, but I weirdly love them. Finn and I share a tiny off-campus apartment that always smells like coffee and sea salt. It's not fancy, but it's ours. He's training to be a swim coach. The water still comes naturally to him, like it remembers him, even if the curse is gone. He's amazing with kids. Patient, kind, still kind of a show-off, but in a charming way. I think he found his place on land the same way I found mine in the water. Back in our hometown, the ocean was officially made off-limits for students after all the disappearances. No one ever figured out exactly what happened, and the town eventually stopped asking. It became one of those things people whispered about, but was really never solved. But we know the truth. And now, we are free from it. We survived something dark, but now, it's just light, and love, and breakfast pancakes, and him. Always him. The end. Have you ever fantasized about a sexy merman? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our rainbow force, and stay wholesome.